What's up guys, Vress here. Today we're going to be taking a look at Ashes of Creation, the upcoming MMORPG from Intrepid Studios. As this is an overview video, I'll try and stick to the main points and keep it brief, rather than bombarding you with every single detail. However, I will be putting more detailed videos out for particular features, so make sure to subscribe for that content. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Let's start with a little bit of background. Intrepid Studios is led by creative director Stephen Sharif, a long-time MMORPG player whose vision is to create a truly next-generation MMORPG. He's expressed his frustration at the games that have been released over the last few years and wants to build something better, claiming that Ashes of Creation is going to change the genre. Of course, attempting to change the MMO genre is a massively ambitious undertaking, and for those of you wondering how they'll manage to fund this venture, Intrepid Studios claims to have enough self-funding to create a minimum viable product, and they've just raised a further $3 million through Kickstarter to expand on this. So let's take a look at the world. Ashes of Creation is set on a fantasy world that has been untouched by civilization for thousands of years. It's up to the players to rebuild and repopulate this world. Every server will look completely different to the next, as the actions of the players will shape the world. From what we've seen so far, the game looks absolutely stunning. The graphics we've seen look to set this game apart from almost every other MMO title that's come before it. The world is truly open and there won't be any loading screens between zones, which I'm pretty happy about, as load screens are kind of an immersion killer for me. Ashes of Creation also features seasons that change on a weekly basis, which adds to the feeling of the world being alive. Perhaps the most important feature of the open world is the node system. Nodes are present all over the world and serve as the hub for any given region. What's quite unique about these nodes is that they are developed entirely through player actions. As a node levels up, new features will appear. This will start with a small camp being set up in the node, and as it continues to advance, it will eventually become a large city. Each time the node levels up, new content becomes available to the players, giving people a real incentive to work together in order to achieve this goal. Trading between nodes forms an important part of the player-driven economy. Due to the weight limit on how much you can carry, you'll have to hire caravans to transport your goods between towns and cities. Of course, you wouldn't want to send your hard-earned goods away without any protection, and you'll be able to send guards to defend your caravan. But even so, there are still going to be other players who are happy to take their chances with the guards in order to steal your goods and take the profit for themselves. Players will have the option to either attack or defend your caravan when they encounter it in the open world. So there's going to be room for good Samaritans as well as thieves and bandits. The questing system in Ashes of Creation seems to be heavily based on player decisions. The decisions you make while questing will actually alter the course of events, and even change the landscape around you. I'm particularly excited about the server level quests that allow rival factions to compete against each other for influence on a node, and subsequently influence on how the world itself is shaped. Of course, we've been promised dynamic questing systems on many occasions, and so far I haven't been particularly impressed by any of the world-shaping quest systems that I've come across in other MMOs. Usually these systems end up being quite linear and repetitive due to obvious resource constraints. However, I really hope Intrepid are able to put their money where their mouth is and deliver on this, as I think it truly would change the MMO experience for the better. The game claims to let you build player housing anywhere in the world. Take note of my use of the word build here, as you won't only be able to buy player housing, but you'll have the opportunity to actually create it. Also, player housing isn't just for cosmetics and storage. You can turn your home into a useful asset such as a working farm, or set yourself up as the local blacksmith. Another really cool thing about player housing is that if you buy a house that's within a village, it will greatly grow in value as that village grows into a town or a city. What started off as a small shack may eventually become a mansion if you get invested in the node at an early stage of its development. From what I've read so far, it seems that player housing will occupy real space in the world. I'm not sure exactly how this will work, as it seems that it would either get massively overcrowded or that most people would never get a chance to build anything. However, I'm hoping they do have a good system to pull this off, because if they manage it, it's going to be awesome. We haven't heard a great deal about the PvE endgame at this point, but Intrepid have promised challenging PvE content that will, like so many other elements of this game, be dynamic in nature. Similar encounters will offer a whole host of different outcomes based on how you approach them and the decisions you make. Traditional PvE players will be happy to know there has been mention of instance dungeons and raids, as well as open world content such as world bosses. I'm eagerly awaiting further details on the PvE aspects of this game, as it's really important for me that an MMO features both strong PvE and PvP if I'm going to become truly invested. I'll keep you all up to date on this in future videos. PvP is also going to feature both large and small scale conflicts, which is a really good sign for me, as while I enjoy the larger scale castle sieges, they can quickly become Zergfests. I'm really glad to see some smaller arena style options in the game, as these tend to focus more on individual skill than guild level strategy. A really interesting PvP dynamic in Ashes of Creation is that only a limited number of nodes can be developed at any one time. This gives players incentive to lay waste to other nodes in order to build up a node that they have an interest in. This could potentially lead to player-created factions and global-scale PvP conflicts that would be awesome to take part in. World PvP is also available, but there are consequences to taking part. The game implements an outlaw system that flags griefers on the map and makes them a target for bounty hunters. If you get killed whilst you're flagged, then other players might even be able to loot you for your gear. I think this is a really positive move, as it adds a really good deterrent for griefers, but still doesn't take away from the sense of danger when you're out questing in the open world. We touched on the economy when we looked at the node system and caravans, however that only really scratches the surface of what Intrepid are promising us here. The game's going to feature an in-depth crafting and gathering system in which you're going to be able to produce items that are unique to their creator. For example, you might be able to create a weapon with stats and abilities that play to your character's strengths. Resources will spawn dynamically around the world, so the pattern of trade will constantly change based on supply and demand. Therefore, the trader who is able to adapt quickly is going to be the one that gets rich. Once you gather enough resources, you'll be able to use player-owned assets, such as your own blacksmithing shop, to refine them and craft them into useful items. You might decide to use these items yourself or sell them on the marketplace. So before we wrap up, I just want to mention one more thing, and that is that the game is going to be subscription based. Personally, I think this is a really good thing. Free-to-play MMOs never feel like they get as much love as subscription-based ones, and usually end up implementing some form of pay-to-win cash store. Personally, I'd much rather pay for quality content on a monthly basis than have to pay to win. In summary, I really hope that Intrepid Studios are able to deliver on their promise, as this is the best looking MMO concept I've seen in a long time. It ticks so many boxes for me in terms of what I'm looking for in an MMO. If they manage to pull it off, then it really could change the face of the genre. So there you have it, my brief overview of Ashes of Creation. Let me know your thoughts on the game in the comments down below. Also, if you liked the video, please remember to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.